According to American writer, editor, and publisher Dave Eggers, the raising of a child is the building of a cathedral. You can't cut corners. My brother, 11-year-old Jackson Garrick, has been diagnosed with cerebral palsy and cognitive delays. And in the 3 states he's attended school, the amount of therapy and assistance each school gives him varies drastically. I have done my fair share of research on this subject, and believe a change should be made amongst many schools across the nation. Recognizing the flaws in school special needs programs helps us become aware of what our students with disabilities are missing out on and how we can help right this wrong by advocating for more funding towards these programs. Today, many schools are minimizing their funding for the special needs programs. The aid that one school can provide for a student individually has a massive impact on one's life compared to one who does not have these advantages. I'm here to show you why I believe in the special needs programs and why it should be more universally funded. Cutting the funding at all for the special needs programs would be detrimental to its students with disabilities. The University of Michigan researched the special education systems in the United States. The special needs programs in many schools, particularly elementary schools, do not have supportive funding. According to the Department of Psychology at the University of Michigan, the special education system in the United States is one of the most heavily regulated and underfunded of all federal education mandates. When I read this statement, I am shocked. I cannot believe that our special needs kids are being deprived of some of the most essential help they could get from within the walls of their own schools. These kids with special needs are kids who need extra funding for helpful teachers and extra support the most. The study goes on to say, not enough teachers today are being trained in special needs education. If more teachers are trained and more inclusion of these children occurs, then it would be easier to get the funding for special needs because the children would already be included into a regular classroom setting. I can agree with that statement. I believe that a teacher's training in college and in preparing to work at a new school should require some form of special needs training. Many people think that they need to walk on eggshells around kids with disabilities, afraid that they might say the wrong thing or offend. Although we don't want to bully or single people out with disabilities, we can embrace them for who they are and change our perspective and attitude about how we approach them. If teachers had some knowledge on their students with disabilities and how they can attend to their needs specifically, more schools might recognize the need for increased funding in their departments, and those kids' lives would be so much more blessed as a result. As educators know how to address the needs of their students, especially with disabilities, recognition of its importance will increase. As a special needs program receives more attention, more funding will be provided. Schools can take so much advantage of aiding their special needs students. Students with disabilities need that extra special attention in school. Allow me to share an experience that my mother encountered when moving from New York to Ohio. When my family and I lived in Western New York, my youngest brother Jackson was able to go to school in kindergarten. He was put in a special needs class that was individual to him. He was put in a class with other kids his age who had special needs as well. They were all gentle kids. More specifically, it was a class full of children with disabilities such as Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and blindness. These are the kids who did not know how to self-defend and wouldn't know what to do if they were put in a class with other special needs children who had behavior problems, autism, ADD, and ADHD. Both groups of those children had to learn, but they needed to learn in different ways. During music classes and other specials that they could go to, they joined the regular ed students to be more included. The way that elementary school was set up was very beneficial to its students with disabilities. The school also issued Jackson an IEP, that stands for Individualized Education Program. On it, it addressed his individual needs. It clarified how many hours of physical and speech therapy he needed and so forth. His teachers would set goals. For example, they would want him to count to 100 by this date, or be able to do this math problem by this date. The school took care of his therapy and recognized his needs, and knew it was the educator's responsibility to take over this aspect of his life. It was great to see his teachers teach their students to their specific needs. When we moved to Ohio and even Texas, the school's philosophy on helping their special needs students did not continue. In Ohio, my mother went to the school to register Jackson for the first grade. She brought his IEP to the school and said, okay, this is Jackson's IEP, this is what he needs therapy-wise, and this is what the last school offered us. The school was shocked. They said they didn't do that there. They told my mom that she was lucky we ever had those benefits before. They didn't offer any of those services and didn't feel that they were obligated to. They simply did not have time for those kids who desperately needed that help. A big reason its importance is lost on them, I believe, is because their school couldn't afford it. There was no stress on the importance of funding this program for kids with special needs. They were floored by the amount of therapy Jackson was getting. In Ohio, they put Jackson in the regular education classes and took him out into a combined special needs class with kids of all different types of disabilities and ages to work on math and reading at a simpler level. Why can't we implement following an IEP universally? This brings me to my next point of how a school's definition of what certain needs a student has can differ greatly compared to that student's actual needs. Look at it this way. Some schools think that they are catering so well to a student with disabilities in minuscule ways. For example, a student who doesn't have very strong muscles finds it hard to walk. Once he can get down a flight of stairs with a handrail, the school thinks the problem is solved and no more therapy is required. But wait, is that really the best solution? Yes, it is a good thing that the student can now walk down the stairs, but if that therapy could help him improve that much, what else could that therapy do for him? It's not fair to allow these students with disabilities to be cut off from improving as much as they can. Most schools have goals of letting their students soar above what's expected of them. Well, by cutting back on funding for special needs education, they aren't allowing a lot of their students to exceed their potential. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act requires states to provide children with special education services as a condition of receiving federal funds. Every school says, "We have no money," when parents push for more funding in different areas of their school. According to UnderstandingSpecialEducation.com, statistics show across the United States, special education students are increasing. The services are drastically needed, yet the funding is just not there. What I think we should take away from that is that we need to show, not tell. Many organizations, such as special education union members and parent organizations, have lobbied in Washington, D.C. for the promised 40% special education funding that we should have nationwide. However, their efforts have unfortunately been ineffective. Then how do we show our school boards how important it is for them to put more funding into our special needs kids rather than other programs for their school? Have discussions with your students' teachers. Go to school board meetings. Show what your child can do when helped with therapy and stress the importance of helping all students go above and beyond physically and mentally. To get a school to put more funding into special needs education is largely up to the parents' efforts in showing their school how important it truly is. If anything, I hope I have made it clear that we cannot give up on pushing for more special needs funding. There's a huge need for help in that department, and we can try our hardest to make a change. Special needs education is so important, it's so necessary, and it's so underfunded. Make a difference. We can show how much our special needs students need that extra help and individualized attention. Go out to your schools and make an impact. Whether it's for your own children or for the sake of your community, make a difference. Show, don't just tell. Doctrine and Covenants, chapter 58, verse 27 reads, "Verily I say, men should be anxiously engaged in a good cause, and do many things of their own free will, and bring to pass much righteousness." Elder M. Russell Ballard of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles said, "The key is to do. This is a good cause. Make a difference and do what you can."